Mr. Tankersley?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Coulter?
Here.
Mr. Lovett?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mrs. Knight? Here. And Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Perfect. Approval of our minutes from May 10th. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, those stand as written and distributed. Reports and communications. The mayor is not here tonight, so I get his spot. And I like that because I get double trouble tonight. So what I'm going to ask is for Terry to read the resolution. Was it a resolution for the parks? The Rotary Club 16, R16.
All right. Go ahead and press. Okay. This is a first and only reading of Resolution 2022 R16E, recognizing the Rotary Club of Northeast Cincinnati for contributing to improvements at Gower Park and declaring an emergency. Whereas the Rotary Club of Northeast Cincinnati was founded in 1990, and their mission is to provide service to others, promote integrity, and advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through fellowship of business, professional, and community leaders. And whereas the City of Sharonville would like to thank the club for selecting the Gower Park Project as their 2022 Community Outreach Program. And whereas a community build was conducted by members of the Rotary Club of Northeast Cincinnati and employees from Sharonville Parks and Recreation on May 18th, 2022 to install the 3 new saddle spinners that were funded by the club. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Sharonville, Hamilton County, Ohio. Section 1, the Sharonville City Council hereby publicly extends their heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to the Rotary Club of Northeast Cincinnati for their efforts in assisting with the beautification and enhancement of quality of life of the City of Sharonville. And Section 2, the resolution is declared to be an emergency measure and shall take effect immediately upon its adoption.
Perfect, thank you. Is there a motion to pass Resolution 2022 R16E? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion on this evening? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Resolution 2022 R16E has been approved.
Carol, if you would like to introduce the group to us, that would be wonderful. Well, that's okay. They can introduce themselves. I think they're all in the front row, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I'll have them come up individually.
Yeah, just come on up. We want to really sincerely thank you. That's why we did this. It wasn't just to make you get out. We really, truly appreciate you doing that for our city and for the kids in the community. That was wonderful. And I wanted people to realize that not only did you just throw money at us, but you actually threw your time and your talents at us also. And that was very, very much so appreciated. So thank you.
All right, guys, go on up.
And I believe the leader of the pack wanted to say a few words. And if you want to, you're welcome to introduce your crew. If you guys want to all stand up.
Let's do that.
I'm the short one in the group. I'm Maxine Richardson, past president of the club.
Thank you, Maxine. We appreciate you.
Hi, I'm Joe Yock, club member.
David Eichman, club member and a former long-term Sharonville president.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dottie Jansen. I'm president-elect of the club, starting term in July. And I really had fun with the little dirt diggers.
Good, good. Thank you.
My name is Peter Nord, and I happen to live in Blue Ash, but I'm happy to come to Sharonville from now and then.
Well, Peter, we're glad you come to our part of the city down here. Thank you.
And I'm Bob Stevens. I want to thank you for the proclamation, Vicki, and I'll enjoy sharing it with the rest of the club.
Thank you.
The Saddle Spinners Project, part of our Rotary Foundation service initiative, was our first attempt to reach out into the communities we serve, searching for a way in which we could give back in some small way. But as we began putting the program together with Carol Crawford's great help and direction, it became much more to us than just reaching out. Learning that the spinners are especially designed to accommodate children with disabilities touched our hearts. Then, when we saw that you were already committed to providing equipment at Gower Park that is friendly to the handicapped, we knew we had made the right choice. You see, helping children is in the DNA of Rotary. For one thing, Rotary has been in the forefront of the fight against polio for the past 50 years. So again, thank you once again for allowing us to reach out to Sharonville.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. If you want to have a seat for just a few minutes, we're going to have those three cute young men come back up and read their Memorial Day essays now, and then we're going to take a short recess so we can take some wonderful pictures and have some fellowship for just a couple minutes, okay? Thank you. All right, Miss Anna.
Okay, this year for our Memorial Day event, we had our 5th grade Memorial Day essay contest. So this evening we have 3 of our 4 winners who have joined us, and they're here to read their essays. Do I have a first volunteer? We'll get to that one. How about Marlon? Would you like to come up first? No, you don't want Oh, you went second yesterday, so you're used to the second spot? Okay.
Our young man over here is
Grace.
eager. He's ready. He did it first yesterday, I believe, and was wonderful.
Memorial Day is a United States federal holiday to commemorate all of the soldiers who died to protect our freedom. This holiday is celebrated from Alaska to Florida. People line up and raise the American flag to show respect to our fallen heroes. People send flowers to families who lost loved ones because of war, and families go to military graves to pay their respects. Men, women, and children from all across the country gather together to remember our country's fallen soldiers. You can witness this for yourself. Simply look on the television to find hundreds of different parades and military ceremonies. In Sharonville, you can see some of these celebrations as people line the streets watching parades. Citizens also put up flags on their houses and by the road. The fallen soldiers that they celebrate don't just have to be from the most recent war. They can be from any war in American history, from the Revolutionary War to the war in Afghanistan. Soldiers died fighting for our freedom and for us to remain a sovereign nation. They died fighting for our right to bear arms and have a free press that isn't owned by the government. Another freedom is to have a democracy instead of a monarchy, dictatorship, or oligarchy. This matters because we have a democracy, so we can elect government officials to represent us and make laws to protect us. We also celebrate soldiers who died liberating other people and countries from tyranny and oppression. Some of these times in World War II were when we helped the people in concentration camps and in Poland, France, and China. These men and women of our country knew all the risks, but they still joined the U.S. military. They paid the ultimate price and gave the ultimate sacrifice, their own life. We are all in a debt to them that can never be repaid.
Thank you very much. Don't.
Did you know that Memorial Day was first called Decoration Day? Memorial Day is a national holiday to honor dead soldiers. Memorial Day is a national holiday. Memorial Day is a day to honor men and women who served in all the forces in the military. This holiday is celebrated on the last Monday of May. 1860, people used to have springtime tributes. Memorial Day was not always Memorial Day, though. It was actually called Decoration Day. 1868 was the first year Memorial Day was celebrated as Memorial Day. Memorial Day's birthplace is Waterloo, New York. There are many ways to celebrate Memorial Day. Some businesses, like the post office, are closed for that day to respect it. Traditionally, people put wreaths, poppies, or flags on soldiers' graves. On the news, you might see the president or vice president put flowers on the soldiers' graves in the National Cemetery. Some families might have picnics or barbecues. Others might let off fireworks. And of course, it's encouraged to wear red, white, and blue. I have a personal connection because my grandma, uncle, and great-grandpa, and other family members have served the military. Every year, my family and I go to a park to have a barbecue there. I think it's important to celebrate Memorial Day because people risk their lives to save us. Also, they did not have to fight for this country's freedom. Do you celebrate Memorial Day? Memorial Day is a day where we honor soldiers who died on duty, and that's why we celebrate.
Thank you.
So I know we discussed having them all read their essays and then
And
do the
that's okay.
recess
Yeah,
and do the pictures and celebration.
we want to
We
do
go
that
ahead
now.
and do that
Yes,
now,
we
and that
can.
gives time for the other
Yeah,
essay to
yeah.
arrive.
Not a problem. Mrs. Armacost, would you like to come up? And I'll have all three of the gentlemen come up anyway, and I'll let you present them their awards. We have, are you the president? Am I? Okay, we have the president, of course, of the Sharonville VFW Ladies Auxiliary, and they help us sponsor this every year along with the VFW Paul Vale Post. So if I could have the three young men come up, she has something for you that you have no idea you're getting. Come on up, Annette. Thank you.
Every year they get better and better.
Don't they though?
They get better and better.
And it should be said, these are fifth graders.
Fifth graders.
Fifth graders.
On the behalf of the VFW and the auxiliary, Paul Vale, 4369, I would like to give you this gift. And who's Grace? Where's Grayson? And your Marlon? And I hope you really enjoy it, and I think you will.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your support in this. Thank you. And a quick backstory, this all started because I was at the VFW Post and they said, no one knows what Memorial Day is. And the best way to teach Memorial Day is maybe through the younger kids. So these children are teaching us a little something, and we love that lesson. So thank you very, very much. We will take a 5-10 minute recess so we can get pictures with Annette and with all of our distinguished guests here in the front row. And please help yourself to cookies and ice cream, and we'll be back in about 10 or 15 minutes. Thank you.
Did you know Memorial Day used to be called Decoration Day? Do you celebrate Memorial Day? Memorial Day honors dead military personnel. Memorial Day is celebrated on the last Monday of May. Memorial Day was originally called Decoration Day and was celebrated by decorating the graves of the Civil War. Decoration Day was made in 1866 and Memorial Day was made in 1971. One of the ways we celebrate is by wearing red poppies to symbolize the fallen soldiers. Also, we take a break off of school and work to appreciate the freedom the fallen soldiers have given us. On Memorial Day, we have picnics, and there are parades and many ceremonies. One of these ceremonies is silence at 3 p.m., and people will go to graves and decorate them. Lastly, we have a monument for Memorial Day, and we keep the flag out through sunset and sunrise. I have many personal connections to Memorial Day because of my family serving a lot. My brother is currently serving in Kuwait, and my grandpa has served, and I have a man in my family, Colonel Douglas Hatfield, who fought in World War II and got shot down in Korea. I love Memorial Day with all my heart. Memorial Day is a beautiful holiday that honors fallen soldiers who fought for freedom. It will never be forgotten.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and thank your brother for serving, okay? That's a lot. All right. I will tell my families of these wonderful children, you don't have to stay. Grab some more cookies on your way out, though, because like, you know, everybody's grandma, I'm sugaring them up and sending them home. Thank you. Thank you all. Very nice job, all of you. All right. We will now move on to our Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. Before we get into the legislation this evening, just two quick items. Chief Sunderman's here tonight to talk about a development pertaining to Touch-A-Truck. We sent an email to all the electeds today, but so this is more for the public knowledge.
Good evening. As we made the elected aware today, the Touch-A-Truck event was moved from Princeton High School, and it is now going to be at the Sharonville Rec Center. The date and time have not changed. It is still June 6th, and it goes from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We just had a scheduling conflict with Princeton that was unavoidable and came up last minute. So many, many thanks to Michael Bloomer at the Rec Department. Jumped in with both feet first thing this morning, and Lieutenant Amy Nutley with the Fire Department, and we were able to make that change very quickly. And Anna was good enough to make sure that everybody knew via Facebook, so that is the new location. So we look forward to being in the heart of Sharonville again with Touch-A-Truck.
Thank you.
And then the second item, would like to introduce Elena Garris, if she could come on up. Elena is our new Economic Development Director, most recently serving in the city of Middletown. She continues the trend of quality employees coming to the Sharonville from that city.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Elaine.
Like you said, I come here from Middletown. I'm originally from Indiana. I've been in economic development for a little over a decade now, so it is my first week has been great, and I'm just really happy I'm here.
Thank you. If you want, they all want to probably introduce themselves and shake their hands. Oh, did she get out of that?
No, that's coming.
Okay. I just thought I'd ask.
Oh, no.
Yay, look at you. Cards already. I love it. Thank you. Welcome.
That's what I was asking.
I'll show you. That's what we love. Thank you.
All right, moving into the legislation this evening, Ordinance 2022-29 is an appropriation amendment for two purposes. The first is Council supported the Twin Creek project a couple years ago. The grant appropriations were put in place last year. The project was delayed a little bit. Those appropriations lapsed, so we just need to reappropriate those dollars. The second purpose is pertaining to our gas meter. Duke thought the gas meter was reading incorrectly. As it turns out, they were apparently correct, so our gas prices for the building have skyrocketed and need some additional money in the budget for that.
Something's causing it.
Okay.
We're not sure. It can, even if it's off, it can still, that's what we're just saying.
Let's see what happens now.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions about the appropriation amendment? If not, Ordinance 2022-30E is just a first reading. Anna has really spearheaded this, working in conjunction with the Hamilton County Public Health. She cannot be here next meeting, so Anna will talk about this briefly.
Good evening again. So, a couple years back, Ohio Department of Health awarded a grant to Hamilton County Public Health to work with some cities, City of Sharonville being one of them, on tobacco prevention and cessation activities. So it was through this our contact notified me a couple of months ago that, we have our tobacco ban on our city buildings, but there is not one existing for our parks. So this was taken through the committees and discussed that we drafted legislation for there to be a tobacco ban, which would also cover tobacco through electronic delivery devices, also known as vapes, to be targeted towards our playgrounds and our splash pad, where we have the highest concentration of kids. Any questions? Yes.
Just, oh, thank you. I love that. You said vape as well?
Yes.
I couldn't distinguish. Yes. Okay. And then, do we have any sort of consequences for people that refuse to comply?
Yeah.
It's a minor misdemeanor with a $100 fine. Similar to the penalty, actually exactly the same as the penalty for indoor smoking.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Anybody else?
Thank you for all your hard work on this.
Thank you.
All right, Ordinance 2022-32E is accepting a loan from the Ohio Public Works Commission for their Cornell Road Culvert project. Stephanie's here tonight. This project has a long history. We've known about the issues with the culvert for close to 15 years. We've applied for grant money a couple times, and as you can imagine, it's not that, it doesn't really score that well for competitive reasons. This year we were below the cut line for the grant by 7 or 8 projects.
Yeah, not a huge amount.
Yeah, and so we, a lot of times OPWC needs to get rid of loan money, and we reached out to OPWC as to whether loan money was available. They went down the list, eventually got to us, and $312, I think, $100,000. $316,500 is available for a loan, 0% for 20 years. In talking with Law Committee, we think we should move forward with the loan and to move forward with the project this year. The budget did have this project in it this year as well. So Stephanie has a visual in front of you that she could explain in more details and then answer questions.
Yeah, so as Jim mentioned, it has a long history. Over 14 years, we've been monitoring this head wall since 2009, and it does have a slow creep to it. It has been kind of gradually getting worse. 2008, there were some options proposed, but at the time, it did not move forward as a project. We applied for funding in 2018 and 2021 and did not get funded either time. So, and like you said, it just because of, physical condition really rates very heavily with OPWC, and only the north end is failing. So the overall culvert is still in pretty good condition. It's just that north end that really needs to be fixed. So that doesn't score well with them. So the exhibit shows you just kind of what we're proposing is to take off the remove the failed head wall on the north end of the culvert, and also fix a portion of the inside of the culvert that is failing on the north end. And we would be fixing that and then also extending the north end. So we can fix the steep embankment as well as allow some room for a future sidewalk if you ever wanted to come through there with a sidewalk, because we want to touch it once and not go back to it for a while. So there's also improvements proposed to the south end to add some height to that head wall and allow that grading on that side to be a little less steep as well. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and just looking to see if we want to take the OPWC loan for it. So
Perfect.
if you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions on this? I know we went over it in great length in law committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Speaking of projects that are very much needed, Resolution 2022 R15 E deals with the much anticipated Fields-Erdel Road improvements at McCauley and Conrad Road. Eric Beck, the county engineer, is here this evening. County's engineer's office will be applying to OKI for the project. The cover memo has some financial details. There is an update since the cover memo was drafted. At the time, the county engineer's office and the city were going to split the share basically 50-50. I questioned what about the township, because when this was talked about a few years ago, the township was going to be a player. And so I was asking, what about the township now? And so they went back to ask the township, and the township agreed that for a third. So, but Eric can talk about the project in more detail.
Sure. Thank you, Jim. Yes, it is a third. We have an agreement that we entered into with the city and with the township. I believe it was in 2018 that laid that out. These are for the improvements to the Fields-Erdel and Conrad intersection, which is currently designed as a roundabout. That's where the fire station's at. We've worked with them on the design. And Fields-Erdel-McCauley intersection is will be a signalized intersection. Our intent is to apply for through OKI for CMAQ funding, which is an 80-20 split. So the federal portion would pick up 80%. It would leave the locals with 20%. Should we get this, we will go to the Ohio Public Works Commission and apply for the other 20%. So hopefully we can get a majority of this project funded through outside grants. And I'm happy to answer any questions on any specifics if you have any.
Just one follow-up. So the project timeframe, if the grant is awarded, right-of-way acquisition process starting fiscal year 24, which is July of 23, with construction being fiscal year 26, which is July of 25. That's the current tentative.
That is correct.
Schedule.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Resolution 22 R16E was a subject earlier this evening for Rotary. Resolution 2022 R17E deals with the Brent Spence Bridge, and Casey, as our OKI representative, can talk about that.
So OKI sent out some communication asking for documentation of support for the two-state funding between Ohio and Kentucky. So if you pass this resolution, there's also instructions within the resolution to send a certified copy to the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. I always screw up that name, sorry. So that's all about. Anybody have any questions?
on the subject of grants. Would like the chiefs to come up to talk about their voice vote for the grant that they want to apply for.
So both Chief Nesbitt and I would like a discussion to proceed with a grant. The grant is actually part of the American Rescue Plan. However, through House Bill 169, it is being filtered down through the EMA, from the state of Ohio to the EMA. So in the course of doing that, they've made the grant process very simple. It's very condensed, and consequently, it has a deadline for the application of June 17th. I think we first caught wind of this about 2 weeks ago, so Lieutenant Cortez at the police department and Lieutenant Holland at the fire department have been working jointly. We did get information very early on that if the police and fire in the same municipality apply jointly, that it's more likely that we would be awarded the grant. What the fire department is looking to do with this grant is to hire 3 additional full-time firefighter paramedics. The grant would pay for those positions for 24 months and would pay salary only. The city would still be responsible for benefits. So those 3 employees, should we get the grant, would cost the fire department about $161,000 per year, and that's just paying for their benefits. At the fire department, we feel like this is a pretty good bet for us. We've run some data about what it looks like for both our part-time budget, reduction in our part-time budget, and reduction in our overtime budget if we had 1 additional person per shift. This feels like a very safe way for us to gather some real data, and the fact that we have 3 retirements coming up in the next 2.5 to 5 years. So if it didn't work out, and if our budget certainly just would not allow to continue those 3 employees, then we could reduce our staffing again just by attrition. Nobody would have to be laid off.
On the police department side, we too all are hoping to hire 3. This grant looks to save or pay $255,000 over 2 years for the cost of police officers. It would be 3 officers for 2 years if we were to receive full award. Additionally, there are elements of the grant that allow for officer wellness, and we've explored the option and discussed purple money, which is something that we would get a single application in the grant for funding to help with securing contractual services for wellness, mental health wellness, and resiliency for our employees. And we would share those expenses and that contract service for both of our departments, maximizing the use of the grant funds. The 3 officers would be a huge welcoming to our department, because we know that we're expecting more than 3 retirements in the near future. And through attrition, if we were not able to support this investment, we know that we would lose the bodies over time, but it would allow us to hire ahead of the loss, so we would stay ahead of the tide of the wave. We wouldn't drop down and go through as many shortages of overtime and as we have recently.
Are there any questions about this? Mr. Lovett? Sorry.
No, I was genuinely clearing my throat. I just had a question after we spoke about this the last meeting. Something popped up in my head. So this is specifically for payroll, correct? This doesn't go for extra equipment or anything of that nature. This is specifically for payroll, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anybody else? Thank you, gentlemen.
And that's it for the legislation.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Lucas at this time? Seeing none, I really don't have a report, as I took the mayor's time. We'll move to our clerk of council, Mrs. Buhite.
Thanks. Echo Restaurant Group LLC, DBA Vincenzo's, located at 11525 Chester Road, requested a liquor license transfer from Vincenzo Masaka, and there were no objections for that. And Churchill Cigar Inc., DBA House of Cigar, located at 4010 Hawk Road, requested a new liquor license, and there were no objections, and those were both signed and sent back.
Are there any questions? Auditor's Report. Mr. Cunningham. You had it there.
Good evening, everybody. We are a third of the way through the year, and we've actually spent a little bit above that. I think I haven't reported that we've spent more than we've taken in a long time, but it's just very little. There's a reason for that. The reason is because we had a significant amount of transfers in April for debt, capital, retirement, and facility improvement in the tune of over $2.5 million. These are all the transfers that were approved for 2022 in one fell swoop. And so, believe it or not, we're only about 0.2% above what we should have spent already. And our working cash is actually a little bit shy of what our goal is per the GFOA study that we've done last. But we expect that receipts are going to be outpacing expenditures going forward, so it's no concern at this point.
Perfect. Are there any questions about this? Seeing none, we will move on to our Treasurer's Report. Mr. Irie.
Thank you. As Mr. Cunningham indicated, we're a third of the way through the year. This is the April 30th Treasurer and Auditor's Report, and again, as Mr. Cunningham indicated, collections are outpacing what we estimated for, so that's really good news. The collections year to date are up 4.47% over last year for the income tax, and lodging tax is up a whopping 46.59% from the prior year. So our current income tax collections are actually outpacing our 2019 numbers. And in terms of our collections versus estimated revenue, in the budget, we're outpacing that in almost all the funds by about 10% year to date. So that's really good.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Irie? Seeing none, we will move on to our Law Director, Mr. Looker.
Thank you very much. In addition to the executive session already requested on your agenda, I'm also requesting an executive session under Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22. Subsection G3 to consult with the public body concerning pending litigation. I don't think when we've done this in the past, it's not necessary to adjourn and then have separate executive sessions, but if we could have 2 votes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then tonight, our Community Development Director, Mr. Creech, is here for his report.
Thank you. Good evening, City Council. Before I give my report, I do want to, I'm happy to introduce 2 new employees of the department, Kimberly Price and Gabriel Rhodes. And I've got some notes here, so forgive me. But anyway, Kimberly is our new administrative clerk secretary. She comes to us from the healthcare industry. She's got over 10 years experience and has 2 associate's degrees in in the medical field. And she is super at attention to detail and customer service. So
great.
Really appreciate the help she's given us. Gabe, brand new here. He just graduated. Actually, you may recall he was a co-op here back in 2019. And it was right when we were kicking off the comprehensive plan. So he got to sit in for that. Now we've got that plan adopted. So he's got a lot of work in front of him. And even with the zoning code that was just recently adopted by City Council, we're working to put that online, make it easier for everyone to consume, so they don't have to always call us for the information, so they can find it themselves. But very happy to have both of these individuals, and welcome.
Great. Welcome. Do you guys want to go introduce yourselves? Or I'll have them introduce themselves? That way you know. Okay, John.
What's that?
I did. Welcome, welcome. It's the haircut.
He could be.
I was just like, oh, he brought a son. How nice. You born
Thank you. So happy to give you folks our annual report for 2021. There have been, got 2 new employees. We had a couple of departures last year. Jamie Kreingler and Jerry Flick, both of those individuals. Jerry actually retired the end of November, and Jamie moved on to another opportunity in the Cincinnati area. And Gina Good, who was our office administrator, clerk secretary, she was actually promoted in early 2021 to the payroll specialist. So there were a lot of changes in the department. And Donna Hollingsworth, who you all are very familiar with, actually was doing 2-3 jobs during that period. And she was actually recognized by Mayor Hardman in March of this year at the Employee Appreciation Breakfast at the Convention Center, and she was very happy about that. I was happy as well. We also had some super employees from the University of Cincinnati, and those of you on Planning Commission have seen these individuals. We always have them present cases at the BZA, Planning Commission. I think you know, they really helped us out, especially last year, because we treat those individuals as full-time employees, and people often call, they schedule inspections, and they talk to these folks, and they simply think they are full-time employees here at the city. So we've been very happy with the work that they performed for us. I'd also like to recognize our volunteers and appointed members of boards that we work with throughout the year. Board of Zoning Appeals. There's some changes that you'll see in next year, but Mr. Eisen left the board at the end of 2021. Planning Commission we work very closely with, and now we've got a new zoning code, so there'll be a lot of changes there, as well as the Board of Zoning Appeals. And I would also like, again, to recognize the Zoning Code Update Steering Committee that put a lot of effort into putting that document together that was recently adopted by City Council. Again, we initially met, you know, remote, and then here in this room throughout the year, there was a lot of reading, going over all of the various changes, proposed changes to the code, and a lot of good debate. And I think we've got a good document to move forward. So thanks to those individuals. Board of Zoning Appeals, Planning Commission, last year, the numbers here, basically, really the important thing here is the notification letters. I've mentioned this before. Whenever anything goes on, whenever there's a change in land use, zoning, variance, what have you, we always mail notifications out to everyone. What that does is it typically generates a response, or it generates some calls, emails, walk-in traffic. This is where we utilize those co-ops so they get that experience of dealing directly with customers, answering questions. Just something we do. Building permit activity. So here we get into some interesting numbers. And I know we talked about last year some of the changes of 2020. There was a little downturn in the economy. So, you know, looking at the numbers for commercial development in the city, and the number that we're looking at here, these are the total estimated construction value for projects listed on building permits that were submitted to the city. So for 2021, we've got a total of $22.3 million. For 2020, $18.7 million. So there's an increase. Things are looking good. $278,000 in fees collected by our department. In total, 446 building permits that we issued. And again, 84 separate commercial electric permits, and I've said this before. Previously, we used IBI, now we use NIC, and we collect at least, we keep 10% of the revenue that we collect now. And there was, as part of that, there was $36,000 in fees collected for that commercial electric, and that represented about $1.9 million in investment in electrical improvements on commercial properties. For residential development, $3.3 million. Last year, $3.1 million. Total collected fees, 36,268 permits, 282 inspections. And again, we're doing that with residential permits, and that's a huge improvement in customer service, especially now because people can come to our office as opposed to going in another location and getting an electric permit, which before they had to sometimes drive to downtown Cincinnati. And I wanted to just give you a snapshot, and if you put those numbers together for the total permits, that was about 700, over 700 permits. But here are the top 12 for the city for 2021, and you'll probably recognize some of these. General Mills, Cuttle, those projects I think actually came here to the city and got some sort of economic development incentive, so there was huge investment on the part of those businesses. If you just look down the list there, Popeye's Restaurant, that's a huge project. It involves some demolition, removal of underground storage tanks in a brand new building. Ilke Windows, new project on Houck Road. And then a lot of other projects that you know, here in the city. Flavor Producers, Habiger, they've got some properties there on Enterprise Park Drive. They've invested heavily. Cincinnati Sub-Zero. And Pacific Dental, and that is the actual, it's part of the Anchor Properties development across from Kroger. They have, that project is ready to go, but I'm told they've delayed their opening because they're having difficulty filling dental positions in that project. But project is ready to go. So I've got this chart here so we can look at just kind of the numbers of building permit revenue fees that we collect. Going back to 2015, about 275,000. And I think I mentioned this last year, that big bump there in 2017, that was a huge project at Ford Motor Company. But if you follow that line, we're within that 350 range in that area. So if you look there at 2020, and these are total building permit fees, residential and commercial, we've seen an increase in 2021 over 2020. A nice, we're getting back to normal, it looks like. And if you pull out just the commercial building permit fees here, you can see we did go down significantly in 2020, and we've had a nice rebound in 2021. And then for residential permit fees, there was a slight decrease. And I think, there was a lot of talk in the media about people staying home in 2020 and doing a lot of work, investment on their own residential properties. I think we saw some of that. Now it looks like, things are getting back to normal and maybe people are getting back to work. And some projects we're working on, you're familiar with these. Obviously the zoning code update, we did a lot of work in 2021, recently adopted, and we appreciate your support on that. The Sharon Creek project, in 2021, City Council approved a resolution of support for something called the Sharon Creek group as part of the Mill Creek Alliance. And because City Council approved that resolution, that was given to Hamilton County Great Parks. They applied for a grant, and they were awarded a grant to purchase property from the railroad. So there was a lot of time spent in 2021 negotiating with excess property for Norfolk Southern Railroad in Evendale all the way to the Sharonville border to acquire that property for future multi-use recreational trail. And of course, the Downtown Loop Square project, a lot of work was done in 2021 on that. We had the Kleinger's, we got some great designs, and they were really good at engaging the public. We had that meeting here downtown at the Cultural Arts Center, and you can see there they actually put the meeting there on the marquee of the building. I appreciate that. And as a result of the input, I think we got a really good plan. One of the big things, if you recall, was should Creek Road be one-way or two-way? Ultimately, public input, keep it the way it is, two-way. So we ran with that, and all the comments were incorporated into the plan, And now hopefully we'll get some good bids back and construction will start here in 2022. The electric vehicle charging station grant that was actually awarded in April of 2021. So right now we've actually got, there's a scan of the plan from CT Consultants. And we're hoping to get that project construction started here in 2022. It has been delayed slightly because we do have to bore underneath Chester Road to get the electric to the site. We looked at a lot of different options, but ultimately that was the only way to do it. So the project is moving forward. Safe Routes to School, that was also awarded in June 2021. This is federal money, so this is kind of a long-term project. We have to go through the ODOT process. We're kind of at the stage 1 of the plan review now, and it is scheduled for construction in 2024. But we are moving along, consultants working on the plans right now. And if you recall, it's for various improvements around Evendale Elementary as well as Sharonville Elementary, around all the streets. Basically pedestrian improvements to make it safer for kids to walk to school. Then code enforcement. I mentioned that Donna, since March had done a lot of work, wearing different hats in the office. So there was a slight decrease in code cases in 2021, but not by many. But yeah, total 516. Which was still higher than 2019. And she's been very proactive, as well as responding to various complaints that we received. And I did want to also point this out. She's working very closely with Mike Mathis, and the city used to have a code enforcement task force. So they've kind of restarted this, and they go out and do some quarterly hotel visits, and they found that very effective to address issues at the hotels, whether it's within the building or within the property itself. But Donna and Mike seem to be very happy with the results of that. And the operators and owners of the hotel really like having that input too. Someone going out and actually pointing out things and telling them what needs to be addressed. Just some additional information. Oh, well, yeah. So, yeah, I kind of skipped over that. But, yeah, 1,000 temporary signs. So that's
all those
a lot.
Political signs?
No, we don't touch political signs. No, these are just the various, usually they're hand-drawn signs put out all along the right-of-way, in the right-of-way, not on private property. Yeah, we do not.
By your house kind of a thing? Down over by that? Yeah, okay.
Could be that. But yeah, these are signs that are illegally placed in the right-of-way. They're not on private property. Thank you. Anyway, but Donna works, like I said, works very closely with Mike Mathis, Police Department, especially Public Works in getting properties mowed. Actually, there was one today that Public Works mowed, and I understand the grass was almost waist high, so.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So and typically it can be in the backyard of a property. A lot of times it depends on, where the property is, but, they can mow the front and then not mow the back, and then a neighbor sees it and they inform us, and we go out and follow the process.
On the cutting your grass, how long do we, there's a couple neighbors in my neighborhood, and it gets pretty long, and I know you've notified them. How many times do you notify them, and how long do they have, or how many notices do they get before you come and cut it?
Yeah, we typically just give the one, we post one notice, and it's usually 7 days. And then before Public Works actually mows it, Donna does go out and make that one final inspection to make sure. Yeah, if it's been cut, then she'll tell them, 7 days.
Do they get, say like they're repeat offenders, do you have like a list of, like they let it get so long and
Yeah,
then you go back
There is
and
a-
then
there
they
is-
get it long again and go back? I know the one guy does.
Yeah, there is a list that she regularly knows to visit, yes.
Are we still putting those white signs in the front yard that, so like neighbors
We
know that?
post them on the door.
You post them on the
Or-
door now? Okay,
or
I just
take-
so neighbors knew that, you know, we are working on it kind of a thing.
Right.
Okay.
And just to address the question, past legal guidance, I don't know if Casey would have different. We were told that each violation has to start the due diligence clock. So we do have to start the process new each time with repeat offenders.
As a separate offense.
As a separate
Yeah.
offense. Casey may disagree with that, I don't know, but that was past legal guidance that we've gotten. Because it's frustrating. It's frustrating to us, it's frustrating to the neighbors, it makes neighborhoods look bad, so.
Well, I think it was also, when the city goes and mows it, they're pretty long. That's putting a lot of wear and tear on our equipment, whereas,
I believe we charge them quite
I
handsomely
know, but I'm just
for
saying,
this.
but it's still a lot of wear and tear
Yeah.
on our,
Except for when Mr. Lovett cuts his neighbor's grass.
Yeah, I think the minimum charge is $250, and then they charge for the equipment, for the man hours, for the gas.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, depending on, if it's really high, it can be really expensive. So the last thing here is we are a partner with the Hamilton County Stormwater District, and which obligates us to do inspections of stormwater basins and respond to spills if there's something from a stormwater outfall that goes into Mill Creek or Sharon Creek. And of those 228 stormwater basins, we actually had some late 2021, the co-op that we had really went out and did an inspection of every one of them. We sent out follow-up letters. So with these basins, these are stormwater detention basins, and if the outlets or the inlets get clogged, that could cause a flooding problem on adjacent properties. So that's why we do that. And these are typically commercial properties. We send out letters to property owners, and as soon as they realize there's a problem, they immediately address it. So, and that is the report for 2021.
Are there any other questions this evening? This side?
Just a comment, just want to publicly thank John and Donna for all their going above and beyond when there was some staffing shortage. I know how hard it was for them just to do the day-to-day activities, let alone adding the code update and other things that they worked on, so thank you.
You went from what, 5 to 2?
Well, we had a co-op.
Okay.
So, yeah.
5 to 2.5.
2.5.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, now's an opportunity for residents to be heard this evening. If you want to be heard, come on up.
Hi, I'm Patty Correll, Sharonville resident.
And just so, John, this is the email that you probably got from me today, just so. He's one of the ones I forwarded it to.
I just have a major concern as a homeowner with the amount of rental property being sold, particularly on my street. That the one next door, like the people come and that are going to work on it, and they tell you what you want to hear, like the grass and parts is over my waist. There's trucks out in the front. There's a trailer with trash all over it, and they're like, "Oh, this has to be fixed. We're going to come get that all taken care of," and then we never hear from anybody again. So, and it's just dangerous too. There's, if you've got kids in the neighborhood, and you've got this truck that people want to climb on or mess around in. Anyway, I know it's nationwide, all the property being sold by renters. Vicki, we already talked about that. Really can't control that. Like, I know we can't stop all the renters, but I just was hoping maybe we could make some of the renter rules stricter instead of waiting 30 days. If I have 2 properties on my street and it's taken 30 days for those properties to get straightened up, I'm freaking out because my yard doesn't look like that. So I don't like the 30-day waiting period. And to wait 30, and for the 30 days to be stricter. And it may be if they're a repeat offender, like if there's certain renters that are buying this property that aren't keeping it up, maybe they don't get the privilege of buying property in Sharonville anymore. You know, like that. I don't know. I don't know what can be done. I just wanted to brought out. So I didn't know. I know it's across the country. There's stricter rules, and my main concern is young homeowners that want to buy in Sharonville and they can't. They can't compete with those people coming in and paying cash offers $20,000 over and above. It's just not fair to the young families that want to come in Sharonville. They, you know, I've got a family now that's been in Sharonville all their life. They would love to buy property here, but when they do, it gets outbid, so they can't come in. And that's just kind of hurtful because Sharonville's such a great place to raise your family, but they're not coming in because you've got renters, rental properties buying these properties and, you know, renting it to whoever. And I know you can have a homeowner buy a house next to you, and it could be awful also. It's not just that it's a rental property. Some renters do great with theirs, and that's fine, but I don't know. I just think if we were stricter, maybe you wouldn't have so many renters. And try and help out the little families that live in Sharonville, that raised in Sharonville, want to buy in Sharonville, kind of help them out. So, just my little 2 cents worth, my little street.
We appreciate your 2 cents worth, and I'm sorry. I know that Donna has reached out to you, and I know they're really working on your property. And trust me when I say, on that last day, Donna will probably be in your neighborhood and all over it. She's very good. Yeah, she is very good. I know Mr. Schmidt actually gave her 3 pages just in Ward 3 where you live, where I live, of properties that were, and she took that list and knocked it out like nobody's business. So, and she's restricted on things that she can do. Like, she can go look at the property, but she can't go on the property. Now, she can go to your backyard and take pictures all she wants because you've invited her there, but she can't go on their property. That's not for her to do. So, yeah. Well, I did, and I shared your pictures with everyone, so they have them, so they're very aware of it. But thank you. Yeah, Dave.
I'm sorry, do you have didn't get where you live. Do you have an HOA?
No.
Okay. Okay. You could regulate it that way. We did, and I live in Copperfield, and there's a maximum limit number of units that could be rented, so, but if you don't have that.
And there's, yeah.
All right, thank you.
And we have great people who buy property and rent property. One's back there, and I know he takes care of his property, and he is very mindful of who he rents to. Some of the people that don't live in our community and buy property, they aren't mindful of. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, and they don't. So that's unfortunate.
And that's the biggest problem that his department has, is they're out of state, and they send letters and letters and letters, and they never get a response. And if they go in on somebody's property ahead of time before they do their legal mumbo jumbo, then they can get in trouble, and the city
Well,
can.
that's what you do, Casey.
So it's a long process.
We're all moving to Copperfield. Go ahead, Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I heard there was a long essay on one of the business channels, and it turns out that approximately 1 out of 7 homes in the United States is bought by institutional investors, which is kind of frightening, because they said what is causing it, a first-time homeowner can't compete, because exactly as you said, cash above asking price, they can't even get their offer together. So it's a trend that's occurring throughout the country, and what it's doing is robbing especially young couples and looking for starter homes of the opportunity to buy a home because they can't compete. And this trend appears to be going, as I said, if I remember correctly, it was 1 out of 7, 14, 15% right now, but it's a growing trend. And I don't know how one stops that, because it's on the market asking price, And the frightening part to me is it's institutional investors. So that's going to be very difficult to control. And I don't know how they take care of the properties exactly as you say. I have the same concern. I very recently run around our neighborhood, and I was shocked at the number of rental properties. Now, they seem to be in reasonably good shape, but it cautions us to be very observant, because we have limited what we can do, but we can enforce our codes. And wonderfully, we have Donna, who really does do that. Rob and I seem to have the most code violations in our wards, 3 and 4, but they have come down dramatically. But everything you said is absolutely correct. I don't know what we as legislators can do, because, you know, the house is on the market for an asking price, and a property that I heard of recently was $15,000 above the asking price. Now, if you're call it.
And we would hopefully more people are like you, Patty, than that. But I can tell you, Mr. Lucas and even the mayor belong to a group, Ohio Municipal League, and this was a huge topic of conversation, back in December, January? Yeah, it was very recent and they're telling all the townships and all the cities and all the villages, hey, this is a problem. We know it's a problem. We're looking at it at a state level, and we're trying to talk to our state representatives and things like that to see what we can't do to keep some of those corporation buyers out. Yeah. They don't realize who they're selling to either. Yeah, they're having a hard time hearing you. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fine. And it is a concern, and
Well, no,
she emailed, and, you know, we've got her with the right people here in our city, but it is a concern.
Well, the guy next door that is, he was working to clean up the house. He told me that between now and 2024, his company, which is like single family something, SFR or something, they plan on spending like 2.3 or 3.2 billion between then and buying up property. And he said, and then they sell it to affordable housing, which, okay, that's good and bad. So then I just cried and went next door to my house. I mean, because you want to help it out, but I don't want it, even if you did 1 or 2 on my street, that's fine. I don't want 8 houses out of the 20 houses, you know.
Yeah.
With issues and that. So that's kind of where I was coming. Yeah, he kind of scared me with that when he said how much they plan. It's swooping in, and I think the average person, if it doesn't happen next door to you, you don't know.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're going to wake up and it's going to be all rental property next to you. And that can be good, it can be bad, but I just feel like if you enforce stricter rules on them, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I know as a neighbor, I'm going to watch, and I'm going to
Right.
call, and Donna's gonna
And just you and Donna can become best friends. She likes chocolate, Patty. She likes chocolate. Right. Yeah. And I can tell you some of the young families that I know that have been successful have used like our local Sharonville realtors. We have a few in our community that really pride themselves on trying to get our young people in. You know, I'm looking at young people here.
I don't feel young.
Well, that's good, or even if I was going to tell the woman, even if you write a letter, which I didn't make any sense to do that anymore, write a letter to the people on that certain street, like
Yeah.
If you want to buy a house, we want to raise our kids here, I'm selling my house to them. That's who I want. I'm selling my house to somebody that is raising their family there. That's what I want Sharonville to continue to be.
Yeah.
So.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, Glenn.
Sorry, just one more sec. I apologize. Sorry. Make you up and down, up and down. 2 things I think we all need to consider ourselves lucky that you came today. We enjoy hearing from folks in the community, and we don't often get to do it, so thank you. You clearly have pride in this community. I guess kind of piggybacking off Vicki and Paul, because we have the opportunity to listen, do you have any thoughts about, you're talking stronger enforcement, stronger regulations, things like that. I mean, do you have any thoughts about what you would like to see done? Ultimately, when we pass legislation, we're representing you, correct? So the reality of it is you're coming here, posing this to us. I would love to hear your thoughts on how you would like to see that done in more than a topical manner. Do you have any thoughts on what you would like to see done differently?
But the main thing right now would just be like to cut down to 30 days. 30 days is a long time for grass to go really tall and to look at somebody's
Garbage.
So if they could do that smaller. Really, I just kind of snowballed within the last week, so I would have to get together and I don't know what can be changed, what cannot be changed, but.
When she said she's meeting with several longtime Sharonville residents this week.
Yeah.
And I had suggested, I said, if you come talk to us at council. We're all willing to listen at any time. You can reach out like you did with me. You're welcome to come to any of these meetings. All of our committee meetings are open to the public. So Law Committee, Mr. Schmidt chairs. Our community relations, the Parks and Recreation and Public Works is what Glenn chairs. Let's see Mike Wilson is chairing the community development. And so any of us up here are willing to listen. We're willing to sit down with you. If you want to go to the Blue Goose, we'll sit down and take notes.
Yeah,
You know, if you guys come up
kind of starting.
grassroots.
Yeah, kind of talk to other residents that have been around.
Yeah.
forever,
And John's got a great crew right here. They're willing to listen. Donna knows the ins and the outs, like I said. She was shocked. One gentleman was like, I just want this car moved, and I just want this. And he was so angry. But once he realized her limitations, and we tie her hands when we say, go look at this, but don't go on their property and don't knock on their door and talk to them because you're not allowed.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of, in her role, she's limited in what she can do. But she does send out letters, and she comes back right away. And after 3 days, if you haven't responded to her, you're getting another letter, the next step letter, if you will, kind of a thing. So she's not, it may seem like she has to wait 30 days, and she does, but she's done a lot before those 30 days.
Yeah, she's not just sitting there.
Right, she's not, yeah. So she's got her,
I do want to get ideas
Yeah.
and then just throw, actually, you can say, no, yes, no.
what's legal, what's not legal. Yeah, we're more than willing to sit with you. There can only be 3 of us at a time for legally, but we can have our department heads come in and talk with you and things like that too. So we're happy to do, if you have a small group, we're happy to listen. Yeah. Yeah.
Just for your information as well as the members of council, the organization that I'm a part of, Ohio Municipal Attorneys Association, there was just a question as far as an email chain that got started today regarding what is permitted in regards to restricting corporate buyouts of residential properties within municipalities, within jurisdictions and that kind of thing. So I'll pay close attention to that. As far as sales to corporations or to individual home buyers, that is up to the seller as long as it doesn't violate the Fair Housing Act discrimination. And basically, you're allowed to discriminate against corporations. So.
There you go.
Vicki?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just one
Paul?
thought, that some of the houses that I've watched recently, we're very pleased in our neighborhood. There are a couple young couples.
Well,
with young.
she's on Fern Hill.
Oh, well, perfect. We're in Concerto. And there's a couple young families with children. I'm very pleased with that. That's one of the hottest areas of real estate in Hamilton County. And this homes, I don't know, I'm not sure if being completely accurate, but those people who bought them were almost on the prowl looking for potential sales before they hit the market.
Exactly, these houses never go up for sale.
That's right. That's one avenue, but wow, that's a tough one. And again, our goal is, I'm personally very pleased to see young families buying these as starter homes, if you will. Many times they move to other areas in Sharonville, Copperfield, larger homes, et cetera, Waterford, but they start with the smaller ones. And the institutional buyers, as Casey said, corporations are one thing, but the individuals, but it's a tough call. They really have if you want to look in a certain area, you have to really be looking.
Our locations are perfect, we've got the schools, at the library, at the.
Right, perfect.
You can walk there, I mean, that's the perfect location, so that's why.
Yeah, it's one of the hottest areas.
Something to think about real quick. So in Copperfield, it was around 10%, I don't remember the number, but at some point, insurance would go up. So that's one reason they capped the amount of rental. Have we ever had any resident, I know a new subdivision, normally there's an HOA. Does anyone know of, I'll call it an existing subdivision that didn't have an HOA? And what would it take, like if you got your neighbors to bound together to get so many, to think about that perspective? Thank you.
It's basically a covenant. Everybody has to agree.
And could it be 10 houses, 20 houses? Would you consider a neighborhood?
I don't know the answer to that.
Like in our neighborhood, it's,
I'm just wondering, for her perspective, if it was legal and you could bound together, let's say 20 homes, and you establish that HOA, would that, I don't know what that would take. Do you need a monthly membership fee, a town, property manager? I don't know any of that, but it's something I think it might be worth exploring, but once again, I don't know the logistics.
And then you got the renters on the street, so they have property.
So once again, in Copperfield, they establish a cap at the percent of units that could be rented. All right, thank you.
Real quick, Tim, did you notice that we only have 2 meetings in June? I don't know, just so you don't come. I just want to make sure you saw that on the sheet.
God bless him. He's our favorite resident because he comes to every meeting, and he really does. He's here at every meeting, and whether he wants to appraise us or he wants to tell us what we're doing wrong, and we love both. Trust me, we do. We love both. He was in Texas visiting his sister last. We kind of do worry when you don't show up. I'm just saying, I might need to give you my cell phone so you can text me. They were visiting his sister in Texas, so. All right, we'll go on to our council committees. Community development, Mr. Wilson, you just gave a great report. Thank you.
I would like to say, on June the 8th, we are having the BZA and Planning Commission meetings for this month. But I just wanted to say how happy I am to know that as a city, we're supporting that co-op program down at the University of Cincinnati, which is a great program that they have. It draws a lot of students in there because of that. And so I'm glad that we support that and that we've taken advantage of that to get some quality individuals in here. So I just like the direction that you're taking on that. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Great. Community services, Mr. Lovett.
We have our June meeting tomorrow, 4 p.m. I also want to quickly say thank you. We had a couple excuse me, last minute things come up. This room is air conditioned tonight, which felt like more of a priority last time we were in here and everybody was sweating. Maybe it was just me. But also, I want to say thank you to Steve Busum and everybody that was involved in getting that done quickly. There was supposedly a 12-week lead time originally. We thought we were going to be finishing up in September, but it's done, and thank you. The other thing I want to say thank you to is Michael Blomer and everybody involved in getting the pool back up and running as rapidly as they did. It sounds like it was a sizable project. And we don't always get to say thank you about the things that everybody notices, because we do a lot of things that nobody pays attention to, but the pool is definitely something that needed to be jumped on pretty quickly. So everybody involved, Anna, thank you for putting all the notifications out about everything going on, but just want to say thank you for that.
Budget and Finance, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. I'm going to read the work that we did on May 10th. So quite a few items. I know we're running late. I'll go through these very quickly. On the ARPA, we were committed by December 2024 on where to put the funds. It will be used to offset police regular hours. Half the funds are currently in-house. we will need legislation from council. The other half of the funding should arrive in 2022, and we may be able to use it in the second half of 2022. Second thing we discussed was retiring $2 million, so looked like the payoff would be in early June. 1.1 million for the police station, and I had in my notes that would pay that off
Yes.
completely. So outstanding job on that. 900,000 for the convention center. The other thing on the third item was the Fema project. So there's some advance funds. Sometime we would have to advance funds sometime during the summer with legislation. We talked about an outstanding fund balance. Convention center funding model, discuss ways to fund the convention center, and we'll look at refinancing or a call at 10 years. The GFOA study, it is in progress. We should have a draft sometime in June, and the new study does assume more risk than was assumed the last time we had that completed. 5-year capital, not much is done since the meeting we attended at the convention center. It will be complete for the 2023 budget, and they're going to go ahead and revisit that after the GFOA study is complete, so that seemed prudent. And then the finance department study, looking at an assistant finance director versus a day-to-day clerk. And really looking at that position would be someone that would look beyond just the normal day-to-day tasks, and someone that would have longer-term vision and would also be a backup for Mr. McCann. Thank you.
Thank you. And how about project oversight?
Project oversight. Our next meeting will be June 21st, 6 p.m. Thank you.
Honored citizens, Mrs. Knight.
Yes, we had a great ceremony yesterday at Patriot Point, but tonight I also like to honor all veterans. Memorial Day is a day that's set aside to remember with gratitude and pride all those who served and died for our country and freedom. I hope your day was filled with memories and peace. God bless America. And always remember, we don't know them all, but we owe them all. Thank you.
Thank you, very nice. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
The next Law and Public Safety Committee meeting will be June 14th, 4 o'clock, Administrative Conference Room. Thank you.
Rule suspension motion, first and only reading for ordinance 2022-29, 2022-32E, and resolutions 2022-R15E, 2022-R17E. Is there a motion? So moved by Mr. Lovett, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, yes. Those opposed, no. And we pass that. Unfinished business, there is none, so we'll move right into new business, please.
Okay. First and only reading of ordinance 2022-29, amending 2022 appropriations for various funds.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2022-29? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Cook. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes?
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-29 has been approved. First reading of ordinance 2022-30E, adding section 521.17, prohibiting smoking in city-owned playground areas to the Sharonville codified ordinances and declaring an emergency. First reading of emergency ordinance 2022-31, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a joint use agreement with the University of Cincinnati in conjunction with a $600,000 grant. First and only reading of ordinance 2022-32E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to accept a loan from the Ohio Public Works Commission for the Cornell Road Culvert Repair Project and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2022-32E? So moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mr. Lovett. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes?
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2022-32E has been approved. First and only reading of resolution 2022-R15E, authorizing support to the Hamilton County Engineers Office in the submission of a funding application to the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments for improvements to the Fields Erdel Road, Macaulay Road intersection, and Fields Erdel Road, Conray Road intersection, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass Resolution 2022-R15E? So moved by Mr. Coulter, second by Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Resolution 2022-R15E has been approved. First and only reading of Resolution 2022-R17E, supporting the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments' efforts to move forward with the Brent Spence Bridge Corridor Project and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass Resolution 2022-R17E? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Coulter. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt. Resolution 2022-R17E has been approved.
Thank you. We've been asked to do a voice vote for proceeds with grant process for the police and fire to file a joint application for the ARPA funds through the state of Ohio. Is there a motion? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. And that motion does carry. Thank you very much. Anyone else here would like to be heard this evening? Are there any other matters to be heard before council? Mrs. Knight.
I just want to have a quick thank you to some of our, to Dan Sunderman, Jim Nesbitt, Anna Allergen, and Steve Bosom. They all came to I'm the president of Senior Citizens, and they all came to the meeting and just gave a tremendous, tremendous value to the citizens. Jim talked about all the scam calls. Dan talked about a lot of them didn't know about Knox boxes where they could have a key, and if they had an emergency, they could get into their house. And Steve talked all about the roads and things like that. They all had great questions. Anna's at every meeting filling them in on good stuff. So I just wanted to just say thank you so much. They really appreciate you.
Thank you. And just another reminder, we only have one meeting in June and July. Don't forget that. If for some reason you're going to be on vacation, one of those two meetings, just please let me know. Because it's very important for Law Committee to make sure that we have 6 people here. If not, then we can't do anything by emergency. So we just need to know that in advance.
And I've got one thing before I forget. I will not be available the first meeting in August. I know I'm early, but this one I don't forget about.
August 1st meeting, you're not here. Perfect. Thank you. Write that down for me, Terry. We got you. Thanks, Tank. So, and that's, if someone else is going to miss in August, just let us know so we can prepare for that Law Committee. And we're not scrambling and making people call when they're driving. God bless you. With 3 kids. Is there a motion to go into executive session, and we're going to vote on this twice? And do we need to vote on it twice to come back out of it too? Probably? No, to go into. Okay. All right. A motion for us to go into executive session regarding the Ohio Revised Code 121.22G2 to consider the purchase or sale of property. Is there a motion? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Tankersley. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
All right.
And I need another motion for executive session for the ORC 121.22G3 to confer with our legal counsel. Is there a motion? Mr. Lovett is first. Who's second? Mr. Schmidt? Is there there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Okay, we are going to executive session. I believe both chiefs are going to join us. Is that, yeah, okay. And that's it, all elected. Thank you both, Patty and Mr. Schmidt, for coming.